My name is Laverne Holt, and I am 62 years old. Most people in my town think I am just the quiet widow who works part-time at the thrift store, the woman who wears the same brown coat every Sunday to church and goes home alone. They do not know I was once a manager in a big company. They do not know I walked away from money, from comfort, and from people who thought they owned me. They also do not know that tonight, I am walking into a house where everyone believes I am poor, naive, and easy to look down on. Before I begin this story, please listen carefully. If you love emotional stories like this, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you will not miss the next chapters. Tell me in the comments where you are watching from, which city or country, so I can know the family that is sitting with me tonight while I share this part of my life. Now, let me tell you what happened. I stood outside the white stone house with my hand pressed to my chest, feeling my heart tap slowly under my Sunday dress. The place did not look like a home. It looked like a picture from a magazine. Clean grass cut in perfect lines. Tall glass windows shining like they were proud of themselves. A long black car in the driveway that probably cost more than every car I had ever owned in my entire life. My son Cassius stood beside me, straightening his tie for the third time. He was 34, tall like his late father, with my eyes and his own stubborn jaw. He kept glancing at the front door like it might open up and swallow him. "Mama, you sure you are okay with this?" he asked. I smiled. I had learned long ago that people relax when an older woman smiles. "I am fine, baby," I said. "Just a dinner. Just family." He hesitated, then lowered his voice. "Remember what Saffron asked?" he said. "Ah, Saffron. My new daughter-in-law." She had called me 3 days earlier, her voice soft but firm, the way people speak when they are trying to make disrespect sound polite. "Miss Laverne," she said, "I just want everything to go smoothly with my parents. They have a certain way they want things, you know." I listened. "I told them you are simple," she continued. "That you did not go far in school, that you are very humble, that you do not know much about business or big money talk. They can be a little, intense." I let her talk. "So tonight, if they say anything or ask questions, just let Cassius answer. Okay, please do not talk about anything complicated. My parents can be judgmental, and I do not want them to feel uncomfortable." Uncomfortable. The word tasted bitter on my tongue. But I swallowed it. "You want me to play the naive poor mother," I had said quietly. She laughed like I had made a cute joke. "Not like that. Just soft, simple, harmless." I could have told her that I knew more about contracts than her father. I could have told her that years ago, I signed papers in glass buildings while men in suits waited for my answer. I could have told her that I once walked away from a deal that would have made me rich because keeping my soul was worth more. But I did not say any of that. I simply said, "All right, baby. I will be what they need me to be. For one night." Now, standing in front of that big house, I remembered that promise. I looked down at my shoes, old but polished. I had chosen a plain blue dress, the one I wore to funerals and job interviews. I carried a small gift bag with a homemade sweet potato pie inside. People like me bring food, not fancy wine. Cassius rang the bell. The sound echoed inside the house. The door opened, and there she was. Saffron. My daughter-in-law. She was beautiful, no lie about that. Her skin glowed, her curls were pulled back into a smooth bun, and she wore a silk dress the color of deep green leaves. When she smiled at Cassius, her whole face lit up. When her eyes moved to me, the light dimmed just a little. Not gone. Just careful. "Hi, Mama Laverne," she said. "You look nice." "Thank you, baby," I said, my voice soft. I held up the pie. "I brought something for the table." Her smile froze for half a second, like she wished I had brought something from a store with a foreign name. "That is sweet," she said. "My parents love store-bought desserts, but we will find a place for it. She stepped aside and waved us in. The house smelled like lemon and rich food. The floors were shiny wood. Every piece of furniture looked expensive and fragile, like it would break if a poor person sat down too hard. In the living room, Saffron's parents waited. Her mother, Miss Dorian, was sitting on a cream-colored sofa, wearing a dress that looked like it came straight out of a fashion show. Not a thread out of place. Her nails were long and painted a dark color. Those nails told me everything I needed to know. Women like that do not wash dishes with their own hands. Her father, Mr. Tillman, stood by the window, on the phone, talking with the smooth voice of a man who believed every room belonged to him. He ended the call slowly, like even his time hanging up was important, then turned around. For one short moment, when his eyes landed on me, something flashed across his face. It was there and gone so fast I almost thought I imagined it. Recognition. Fear. Guilt. I was not sure. But it was something. "Mama, this is my mother, Laverne Holt," Cassius said. "Mama, this is Saffron's mother, Miss Dorian, and her father, Mr. Tillman." I stepped forward, pie in my hand, smile on my face. "Good evening," I said. "Thank you for having me in your home." Dorian gave me the type of smile rich women give cashiers. "Of course," she said. "We are happy to finally meet you. We have heard such simple things about you." Simple. I pretended not to hear it. Tillman did not offer his hand at first. He just looked at me. I looked back, letting my eyes rest on his face, on the little scar under his chin, the one that looked like a faded crescent moon. I knew that scar. "Are you all right, sir?" I asked gently. He blinked, then seemed to shake himself. Yes, of course," he said. "Welcome, Miss Holt." His voice shook just a little. We moved to the dining room. The table was set with silverware that looked too sharp to be friendly. Crystal glasses. Plates that probably had their own insurance policy. In the center, a big roast sat like a king surrounded by smaller dishes. As we settled into our chairs, Saffron leaned down and whispered in my ear. "Remember, Mama," she murmured. "Just relax. Let them talk. Do not worry about money talk or old stories." I patted her hand. "I remember," I said. We joined hands to say grace. Dorian led the prayer, thanking God for health, success, and the joining of two good families. She did not mention humble people. She did not mention widows. She certainly did not mention the woman sitting across from her who had once lost everything and survived. Dinner began. Conversation flowed like warm honey between Saffron, her parents, and my son. They spoke about business deals, real estate, travel plans. Dorian talked about the country club. Tillman spoke about investments. Saffron talked about her promotion. Every now and then, one of them would glance at me, then look away, as if I were a painting on the wall, something to be polite about but not truly see. "So, Miss Holt," Dorian said finally, cutting her steak into careful squares. "Saffron tells us you did not work in any serious field." Cassius stiffened beside me. I laid my hand gently on his wrist. "That is right," I said calmly. "I did not go very far with work. I just raised my son and did what I could along the way." "Just a small job at a thrift store," Saffron added quickly, laughing in a light way. "She is very sweet. We help her with bills sometimes." Silence slid over the table for a second. Tillman's knife paused midair. "You do," he said slowly. Saffron nodded. "Of course. Cassius sends her something every month. She would not make it without us." I felt my son's shame before I saw it. He pressed his lips together. He had never liked taking my help. He thought he was the one supporting me. Dorian smiled in satisfaction. "Well, that is what children are for," she said. "To lift their parents out of their small lives." I lowered my eyes, like a woman too simple to be offended. But inside, somewhere deep and quiet, an old fire warmed my bones. Because now I was sure. This was not just any rich man across the table from me. This was the same man who years ago sat in a glass office, smiled at my fear, and told me a lie that cost me everything. He did not recognize my name because, back then, I still had my maiden name. I lifted my head slowly and looked straight at him. His hand shook. His wine glass tapped softly against the plate. "Mr. Tillman," I said, keeping my voice soft and naive, like they wanted. "I have a small question for you, if you do not mind." He swallowed. "What kind of question?" I smiled, but this time it was not just for show. "Do you remember a young woman named Laverne Jasper who once signed away her share in a small company you bought, many years ago in Atlanta?" The knife slipped from his hand and hit the plate with a sharp sound. The whole table froze. And that was the moment everyone in that shining room began to realize that the poor, naive mother they invited to dinner was not at all who they thought she was. For a long moment, no one moved. The only sound in the room was the soft clink of Mr. Tillman's knife rocking on his empty plate. Saffron frowned at me like I had spoken in a language she didn't understand. Cassius looked confused. Dorian stared at her husband, her perfect posture cracking just enough for me to see the fear she tried to hide. And Tillman. He looked like a man who had just seen a ghost wearing a familiar face. "Laverne Jasper," he whispered, barely breathing the words. His eyes darted to mine, searching, panicking, remembering. "That was a lifetime ago." "Not for me," I said. Saffron let out a short, nervous laugh. "Mama Laverne, what are you talking about? My parents do not know anything about that." I kept my eyes on Tillman. "Oh, he knows exactly what I am talking about." He swallowed hard. His hand went to his collar like the air had become too tight around his throat. Dorian spoke first. "What is this about, Harold?" she asked sharply, forgetting her polished tone. "Why does this woman know something about your past in Atlanta?" Harold. So that was his first name. I had almost forgotten it. Tillman wiped his mouth with his napkin, but his hand was trembling. "It was a long time ago," he said, looking anywhere except at me. "A business matter. Nothing serious." I leaned back, pretending to be relaxed, though I could feel the heat rising in my chest. "It was serious to me," I said softly. "Serious enough that I had to start my whole life over. Serious enough that, 4 years, I could barely feed my child. Serious enough that the people you partnered with walked away richer than kings while I walked away with tears and dust." Cassius stared at me, shocked. "Mama, what is she talking about?" I breathed in, steady and slow. "Son, before you were born, your father and I helped build a small tech company with 2 other people. We were young. We trusted easily. And when we hit a rough patch, one man offered to buy our share for what he called a fair price. We believed him. We needed the money for your father's medical bills. We signed. We walked away. The next year, the company exploded. Worth millions on millions. But we never saw a penny." I turned my gaze back to Tillman. And the man who bought us out for crumbs was sitting right there. In that very seat. Cassius blinked rapidly. "Mama, you never told me that." I touched his hand. "Because I did not want that story to be the thing that defined your future. I wanted you to find your own way, not carry my old storms on your back." Dorian couldn't hide her irritation. "Laverne, you sound like you are accusing my husband of something illegal. That deal was decades ago, and you agreed to it. No one forced you." I nodded calmly. "No. No one forced me. That is true. But they lied. That is what hurt the most. I thought we were shaking hands with partners. Turns out, we were shaking hands with people who counted on our pain to make their profit feel clean." Tillman finally looked at me. His eyes were red around the edges. I needed the deal, he said quietly. I needed to win. I was young, ambitious, trying to prove myself. I never meant to hurt you. A bitter smile touched my lips. People who say they never meant to hurt you usually hurt you the most. Saffron looked from me to her father, her face pale. Daddy, is this true? He opened his mouth, closed it, then sighed. Yes, it is. The table went dead silent. Saffron looked like she wanted to sink into the floor. Cassius looked betrayed by the whole world. And Dorian looked like someone had dragged her pride across the carpet. I folded my hands neatly in my lap. You know, I came here tonight planning to do exactly what you asked of me, Saffron. Play the simple woman. The harmless, poor mother. I was ready to sit at your table, smile politely, and let you believe whatever made you comfortable. Saffron's eyes filled with shame, and she lowered her head. I continued softly. But when I walked through your door and saw his face, I knew I could not stay quiet. Some stories refuse to stay buried. Tillman leaned forward, his voice strained. Laverne, what do you want? What are you planning to do? I tilted my head gently, like I was thinking. What do I want? My fingers tapped slowly on the table. Well, for starters, I want the truth on this table to stay there. No sweeping it under fancy rugs. I want my son to finally know where he comes from. And I want your daughter to understand that the woman she tried to shrink is not someone who breaks easily. Cassius straightened up in his seat, anger and pride mixing in his eyes. Mama, why did you never tell me all this? Why did you let me think I was helping you? Because you were helping me, I answered softly. You gave me joy. You gave me purpose. And you grew into a good man without the shadow of my past choking you. He blinked hard, fighting emotions. I reached for my water glass, but right as I did, Tillman's phone began to ring on the table. He ignored it. It rang again. And again. Finally, the screen lit up with a name. Ansel Reed. My breath caught in my chest. I knew that name. That man had been Tillman's old business partner. And the last time I had heard that name, I was signing away my future. Tillman's face went gray. Dorian grabbed the phone. Why is Ansel calling you at dinner? Tillman opened his mouth, but no sound came out. I felt something deep in my bones. Something was wrong. Very wrong. As Dorian stared at her husband, the phone rang again. But this time, when she declined the call, a short message flashed across the screen. Call me now. They found out what we did. The whole table froze. And that was the moment I knew that the past I thought I had buried was about to rise up fast, loud, and messy, and swallow every single one of us in this room. The room felt colder than it had a moment before. The chandelier lights were still warm and golden, but somehow the air underneath them shifted, tightening around us like an invisible fist. Dorian's face hardened as she stared at the message on her husband's phone. Harold. What does that mean? She asked, her voice sharp but trembling around the edges. What did you do? Tillman didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the glowing screen, like maybe if he stared long enough the message would delete itself and take the past with it. Cassius leaned forward, his jaw tight. Sir, he said, voice low. I think it's time you explain what's going on. Tillman swallowed, the sound loud in the silent room. It's nothing, he whispered. Another lie. I could smell it. Dorian slammed the phone down on the table. Do not lie to me in my own house, Harold. What did Ansel mean by what we did? The way she said we made me watch her closely. Her shoulders were stiff. Her eyes flicked between her husband and me like she was realizing something she didn't want to believe. I folded my fingers gently in my lap. It's that deal, isn't it? I said quietly. The one you and Ansel made back in Atlanta. The one that cost me everything. Tillman closed his eyes, like hearing the truth spoken aloud was too much. Saffron's voice cracked. Daddy, what did you do to her? He lifted his head slowly, finally facing us. It wasn't just a business deal, he said. We were desperate. The company was failing. Investors were circling like hawks. We thought if we could just survive one more month, everything would turn around. Dorian's lip curled. So you cheated people. He looked down. We manipulated contracts. We misled partners. We pushed certain people out before they realized the potential. People like me, I said softly. He didn't deny it. Cassius stared at him with disgust. My son never raised his voice, but I could feel the anger rolling off him. And why is Ansel calling you now? Cassius asked. After all these years. Tillman's hands shook as he picked up the wine glass. He didn't drink. Just held it like it could steady him. Because someone reopened the investigation. He looked directly at me. Someone is digging into everything we did. The words fell like stones. Miss Saffron whispered, her voice shaking. Are we in trouble? Dorian let out a cold laugh. We. The word cracked like dry wood. She turned to her husband slowly. Did you involve me in anything illegal, Harold? Did you use my name for anything? Tillman looked like a man who wanted to disappear. Not exactly, he said. Dorian froze. What does not exactly mean? Before he could answer, the doorbell rang. Once. Twice. 3 long, heavy chimes. Nobody moved. Saffron wiped her hands on her dress. We're not expecting anyone, she whispered. Cassius looked at me. Mama, you okay? I nodded gently. Yes, baby. I'm fine. The doorbell rang again. This time, louder. Firmer. Like whoever was outside wasn't planning to leave. Tillman stood up abruptly. Nobody answer that, he said. Not yet. Dorian shot him a furious look. Why not Harold, who is at the door? He was breathing fast now. Sweat gathered on his forehead. His hands shook so badly he had to grip the back of his chair to keep from falling. Because, he whispered, someone has been threatening me. The table fell silent again. Threatening you, Cassius repeated slowly. For what? Tillman closed his eyes. For the Atlanta deal. For everything we did. Someone found proof we falsified numbers. Someone knows we lied. They've been sending messages for weeks. I didn't think they would come here. Dorian gasped like the room had collapsed on her. You hid this from me, you put our family in danger, Harold. He raised a trembling hand. I didn't know they would show up. I thought we had more time. Another knock hit the door. This one wasn't a ring. It was a fist. Hard. Loud. The kind of knock that demands an answer. Saffron jumped, grabbing Cassius' arm. Who is at our door this late? None of us breathed. The knock came again. Then a voice, muffled but deep. Harold Tillman. Open the door. Now. Saffron covered her mouth. Cassius instinctively shifted closer to me. Mama, we should leave. Something's wrong. Tillman shook his head violently. No. No one moves. Not until I know who it is. But deep down, I already knew. Old mistakes have long shadows. And they always find their way back home. Another knock. Louder. More urgent. Then the voice again. Harold. We know you're inside. Open the door. Or we come in. My heart thumped once, slow and heavy. I looked across the table at Tillman, his face pale and shaking, staring toward the hallway like a man waiting for judgment. And right then, I realized something. I wasn't the only person in this house carrying a past that wanted answers. The knocking didn't stop. It grew louder. Firmer. Each hit of the fist against that beautiful white door sounded like it was cracking through the walls of the past, forcing old truths to step into the present whether anyone was ready or not. Saffron was crying silently now. Cassius wrapped an arm around her, his jaw tight. Dorian stood frozen, her hand pressed to her chest, eyes locked on her husband like she was seeing him clearly for the first time. And Harold Tillman. He looked like a man standing on the edge of something dark. His breath came in shallow bursts. "Don't answer it," he whispered. "Please. Nobody move." Another voice rang out from behind the door. This one louder, deeper, sharper. "Harold Tillman. We have business to settle. You know why we're here." Then another voice joined him. A woman this time. "You owe people, Harold. And it's time you speak up." Dorian gasped, her hand shaking violently. "How many people are out there, Harold? What did you drag into our home?" Tillman didn't answer. He couldn't. His legs wobbled beneath him, and he had to hold the wall for support. Cassius scooted back his chair. "I'm calling the police." "No," Harold shouted, his voice breaking. "No police." Cassius frowned. "Why not?" "Because if the authorities step in now, everything will come out. All of it. The lies. The contracts. The fake signatures. The under-the-table deals. Everything I did with Ansel." Dorian's voice rose like a broken siren. "Fake signatures on whose name, Harold? Who did you drag into this mess?" He finally spoke. "Yours." Dorian froze. Her eyes widened in anger and betrayal so deep it looked like it could split her in two. "You forged my name." Tillman nodded, tears gathering in his eyes. "I needed a clean signature. Yours was respected. It helped solidify the deal. I didn't think it would matter later because no one was supposed to look back. No one was supposed to question anything. But they did look back. Those men outside were proof." The knocking stopped suddenly. Silence. A long, heavy silence filled the room, so thick even breathing felt disrespectful. Then, slowly, the front door handle turned. Saffron screamed. Dorian stumbled backward. Cassius moved in front of me instinctively, like a wall of protection. But the door didn't open. Instead, a calm but firm voice spoke through the wood. "Mr. Tillman. We aren't here to hurt anyone. But you know why we're here. We need answers. Tonight." I stood up slowly. "Mama, no," Cassius whispered, grabbing my arm. But I gently pulled my hand free. "Baby. Let me." All eyes turned to me. For a moment, I could feel every story that lived in my bones rising to the surface. All the days I worked 2 jobs just to feed a son. All the nights I cried quietly after losing everything. All the years I kept my head down because standing tall meant remembering too much. I walked toward the door. Every step told my past and my present to stop running from each other. "Mama," Laverne Saffron whispered, voice shaking. I didn't look back. When I reached the door, I didn't open it. I rested my palm against the cool wood. "Gentlemen," I said, my voice steady. "What do you want with Harold Tillman?" A pause. Then the woman's voice answered. "We want the truth. We want restitution. We want him to face what he did. We want to know if he plans to keep hiding, or if he's finally ready to speak." Another voice added. "And we heard someone inside the house knows the story better than anyone." Silence fell like a heavy blanket behind me. Cassius whispered, "Mama, they mean you." Slowly, I opened the door. Not wide. Just enough to see the people outside. 3 of them. 2 men. 1 woman. All older. All dressed simply. All holding paperwork, envelopes, folders. Not weapons. These were not criminals. These were survivors. Their faces carried years of pain that matched mine. Faces that remembered betrayal too well. The woman stepped forward. You're Laverne Jasper. I nodded once. Then you remember us, she said quietly. We were the others. The other families that signed the same deal you did. The ones who believed Harold and Ansel when they said the company was failing. I remembered their names. Their faces. Their tears. I remembered the day we all came to that glass office. Desperate, trusting, hopeful. The woman held out a folder. We've gathered everything. All the proof. All the lies. All the signatures they forged. And we need someone to speak with us when this finally goes public. Behind me, I heard Tillman gasp. You're going public. The woman's eyes hardened. You stole 27 years from us, Harold. 27. I stepped aside so they could see him, trembling behind the dining room table. Dorian wrapped her arms around herself like she was freezing. Saffron stood shaking, tears streaming down her cheeks, realizing the life she had grown up in was built on someone else's pain. Cassius stared at Tillman, disgust in every line of his face. And Tillman? He looked small. Like a man who had never learned that running from truth only makes it louder when it finally arrives. The woman turned to me. We want you with us, Laverne. You were the first one they tricked. The one they watched the closest. We want your voice. Inside the house, everyone held their breath. Even the walls seemed to lean forward. I looked at the folder in her hand. At the faces of people who had carried the same wound I carried. At my son, who had grown up thinking I was weak when I had actually been surviving a storm I never told him about. At Saffron, who was now seeing the weight of the shame she tried to put on me. At Tillman, who had taken everything from me. And now looked like everything was being taken from him. I took the folder. And I said the words everyone feared and expected at the same time. I will speak. Tillman collapsed into a chair, burying his face in his hands. Dorian stepped away from him like he was poison. Saffron sobbed harder. And Cassius whispered, almost proud, Mama, what happens now? I looked down at the folder in my hands. And I knew the real storm hadn't even begun. The house felt too quiet after the group left. Their footsteps faded down the walkway, but their words stayed inside the walls like echoes that refused to die. The door clicked shut. I held the folder close to my chest, feeling the weight of 27 years sitting right against my heart. Behind me, the air was heavy. Saffron had sunk into a chair, holding her head with both hands. Dorian stood near the dining table, shaking so hard the earrings in her ears trembled. And Tillman? He hadn't spoken since collapsing into the chair. He looked like his life had been split open right down the middle. Cassius walked to my side, worry in his eyes. Mama, he whispered. You sure you want to do this? I turned to him slowly. Baby, this has followed me for more than half my life. You can't outrun what was never finished. It always finds its way home. He swallowed hard, nodding. Dorian suddenly stepped forward. Laverne, she said, her voice breaking. You cannot go public with this. Do you know what this will do to my family? I looked at her. Really looked. And I saw it, the fear. Not of the law, but of humiliation. Of loss. Of seeing her perfect world crumble into pieces she couldn't glue back together. I didn't speak yet. She took another shaky step. I didn't know what Harold did. I didn't know he signed my name. I didn't know he stole from people. I didn't know you were one of the victims. Please, please believe me. I nodded. I do believe you. She gasped, relieved. But believing you doesn't erase what he did. Her relief shattered instantly. Saffron stood up suddenly. Mama Laverne, she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. Please, if this comes out, everything my daddy built, everything we have, will be destroyed. I stepped toward her gently. Baby, what you have was built on somebody else's broken life. Those things never stay pretty forever. Saffron covered her mouth and cried harder. Cassius stood behind her, rubbing her back. He was hurting too, torn between the woman he married and the woman who raised him. Then, without warning, Tillman finally lifted his head. He looked older than he had before. Years older. Laverne, he whispered. If you go public, I'll lose everything. My company, my position, my reputation, my home, everything. I stared at him, silent. He shook his head. Please, don't do this to me. A strange calm washed over me. Do this to you, I repeated softly. He blinked at me, confused. Then my voice sharpened, not loud, not angry, just strong enough to cut through the room. Harold, you did this to yourself. His face twisted, pain and shame twisting together. I walked toward him slowly. Do you know what I lost because of you? I lost my home. I lost my stability. I lost the future I thought I had. I lost my husband's health because we couldn't afford the treatments after we sold our share. I lost years. Years I can't get back. He looked down, ashamed. And you became a millionaire. He closed his eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered. I nodded. I know you are. But sorry doesn't undo the damage. Dorian wrapped her arms around herself. Laverne, what do you want? What will it take for you not to go public? The question sat heavy in the air. Cassius looked at me, surprised. Saffron stared like she was waiting for her life to end. I didn't answer right away. I walked to the dining table and opened the folder. Inside were contracts, signatures, timelines, emails, names, everything that told the story of how they destroyed us. I flipped slowly through the pages. Then I closed the folder. I finally turned back to them. What I want is something Harold can't give. They all stared. I want my years back. I want my husband's health back. I want my fear, my stress, my sleepless nights to be erased. I inhaled deeply. But since none of that can be returned, I want something else. Cassius stepped closer. Mama, what? My voice dropped low. I want every family that was hurt to be made whole. Not with apologies. With money. Real money. Not crumbs. Tillman exhaled shakily. I can pay something. But not everything. Not millions. I stared him down. Harold, you stole millions. You didn't lose them. You hid them. You invested them. You grew them. His face crumbled. Saffron gasped. Daddy, is that true? He didn't even try to lie. Yes, he whispered. Saffron backed away from him like he was poison. Dorian put her hand on her forehead. My God. I married a thief. A loud silence filled the room. Then I whispered. I want restitution. Every family repaid fully. With interest. Dorian shook her head. Laverne, that amount of money will destroy us. I shrugged softly. It destroyed us first. Tillman finally looked at me with something close to acceptance. If I do this, will you stand with the group? Will you still speak publicly? I looked at him for a very long moment. No, I said quietly. Everyone gasped. Even Cassius. I continued. If every family receives the full amount, every penny stolen and every penny earned from it, I will not speak publicly. Relief washed across Saffron's face. Dorian leaned against the wall, shaking. But I wasn't finished. I want documentation. Signed and legal. No tricks this time. No lies. No small print. Tillman nodded slowly, defeated. I can do that. It will take time, but I can do it. I closed the folder and placed it on the table. Good. Start tomorrow. He nodded again. Saffron sat back down, crying but relieved. Dorian wiped her face. Thank you, Laverne. Thank you. I held up a hand. Don't thank me yet. They looked confused. Because I'm not done. Cassius frowned. Mama, what else? I turned to Saffron. Saffron, I need to ask you something. She looked up nervously. What is it? I walked closer, my face soft but steady. Why did you ask me to pretend to be poor, simple and quiet when we came here tonight? Her cheeks flushed. I didn't want my parents to judge you. I didn't want them to think you were too much. I didn't want. I raised a hand. Baby, be honest. She cried harder. I didn't think you were good enough for them. Silence. Cassius closed his eyes, hurt. Dorian stared at the floor. Tillman looked ashamed. Saffron wiped her tears. I stepped closer and lifted her chin gently. Look at me, I said softly. She did. You don't ever ask me to shrink myself again. Do you understand? She nodded slowly. Yes, Mama Laverne. Because shrinking only makes room for people who don't deserve the space. Saffron broke down crying again. Cassius came to hold me, his voice thick. Mama, you're stronger than all of us. I exhaled deeply. Then, behind us, Tillman suddenly stood up. I'll call Ansel, he whispered. Tonight. We need to fix this. But right as he reached into his pocket, his phone lit up again. This time with a new message. A short one. From an unknown number. We know what you are planning. And we are not done. Tillman's face went pale. Everyone stared at the phone. And I realized. This storm wasn't over. Not even close. Tillman stared at the message like it was written in fire. His hand trembled so badly the phone nearly slipped from his fingers. We know what you are planning. And we are not done. Saffron covered her mouth with both hands. Mama, what does that mean? She whispered, eyes wide with fear. I stepped closer, slowly, calmly, the way a woman walks through a room filled with broken glass. My voice stayed steady. It means someone else is involved. Someone who hasn't stepped forward yet. Tillman's breathing grew jagged. No, no. This can't be happening. I already ruined enough lives. I can't go through this again. Dorian shot him a sharp look. Harold, is there anyone else you wronged? Is there something else you haven't told us? He swallowed. Sweat rolled down his temple. I told you everything, he said weakly. But even he didn't sound convinced. The phone buzzed again. Another message. This one longer. You thought paying the families would make everything disappear. It won't. We want more than money. We want the truth. We want the world to hear your confession. Tillman gasped. No. No. I can't. If this goes public, my career, my name. Dorian stepped back from him like something toxic was leaking out of his skin. Your career is already gone, Harold. Your name is dust. The only thing you have left is the truth. Cassius moved beside me, shaking his head in disbelief. So after all the pain you caused, people still aren't satisfied, people still want more. I placed a calming hand on his arm. Baby, pain doesn't disappear just because time passed. People want closure. Some want justice. And some want revenge. I looked toward the door. Whoever sent that message isn't after money. They're after something deeper. Tillman sat down heavily, rubbing his face. His voice trembled. This is someone who wants to ruin me completely. Someone who wanted to wait until I had everything just to snatch it all away. I watched him carefully. Guilt doesn't make you paranoid, Harold. Guilt makes you honest. Paranoia comes from secrets. His eyes flickered with something. Fear, regret, or another secret he hadn't spoken yet. Saffron looked at him with swollen eyes. Daddy, if you know who this is, please tell us. Tillman didn't speak. He didn't blink. He just stared at the phone. A silence wrapped around the room. Tight, suffocating. Then his voice cracked like dry wood. There was one more person. Someone I never told Ansel about. Someone who threatened me back then but disappeared. Cassius stiffened. Who? Tillman swallowed hard. Her name was Audria. My heart stopped. Audria Jasper. My sister. The room spun for a moment. I had not heard her name in more than 20 years. My breath caught in my throat. Saffron looked confused. Mama Laverne. You said you didn't have any sisters. I shook my head slowly. I didn't say that. I said I didn't have any sisters left. Cassius looked at me with wide eyes. Mama, what happened to her? Tillman spoke before I could answer. She was the one who brought me proof of the company's future value. She said I was stealing from her family. She warned me. She threatened to expose everything if I didn't stop. Dorian's jaw dropped. What did you do, Harold? He whispered. I scared her away. I stepped closer, my hands shaking. How did you scare her away? He looked at me with eyes that had aged years in minutes. I told Ansel she was unstable. That she was trying to blackmail us. That she might hurt someone. He had connections. He made calls. After that, she disappeared. Saffron clutched Cassius' arm. Mama, are you saying? I nodded slowly, my voice barely a breath. My sister vanished 27 years ago. Tillman continued, tears slipping down his face. I thought she left town. I thought she gave up. I thought it was over. He held up the phone, hands trembling. But I think she's back. A long, cold silence fell. Dorian whispered. Harold, you didn't just steal money. You destroyed a family. He broke down crying. Cassius stared at him with pure disgust. You ruined my mother's life. You ruined her sister's life. And you sat here for years acting like some high-class businessman. He looked away, jaw clenched. Then the phone buzzed again. Another message. But this one didn't come from an unknown number. It came from a contact saved in Tillman's phone. And when he read the name, his face turned white. Saffron grabbed the phone from him, desperate to see. Then she gasped. Mama Laverne. She turned the screen so I could see it. The message was from Audria Jasper. My sister. A sister I had buried in my heart long ago. And her message was simple. Laverne. I know you are inside. I'm coming in 5 minutes. We need to talk. The entire room froze. Saffron whispered the words that everyone was too afraid to say out loud. Your sister is alive. And she is coming here. For a long moment, no one breathed. The message sat on the screen like a heartbeat. Laverne. I know you are inside. I'm coming in 5 minutes. We need to talk. My hands went cold. My sister. My blood. My Audria. Alive. Cassius grabbed my arm. Mama, you said she disappeared. You said you didn't know where she went. I swallowed hard, staring at the message as if it might vanish. Baby. I didn't. 4 years. Nobody heard from her. No calls. No letters. Nothing. I truly thought, she was gone. Saffron took a shaky step back from the door. Why would she come here? Why now? Tillman looked like he might faint. Because she wants the truth, he whispered. And she wants it with witnesses. Dorian stared at him with pure disbelief. Harold, that woman could ruin us all. You told me she was unstable, dangerous. You told me she disappeared because she wanted to. Tillman's lips trembled. I said that because I needed you to believe it. You lied to me again, Dorian cried. You didn't just steal money. You stole a woman's life. Silence settled over the room, a heavy, shaking silence. I forced myself to breathe slowly. If Audrey was coming, if she was still alive, if she had been watching all these years, then I needed to be ready. Cassius placed a hand on my back. Mama, are you scared? I looked at him. At my son, the one person who had loved me through my storms without even knowing their full weight. No, baby. I'm not scared. I'm just waiting for answers I never thought would come. The house grew quiet again. 4 minutes passed. Then 3. Then 2. Finally, 1. Outside, footsteps approached the door. Slow. Measured. Like each step was carrying 27 years of truth. Tillman stood up and backed away like a guilty man avoiding judgment. Dorian clutched her chest. Saffron gripped Cassius' shirt like a child. Cassius stood beside me, shoulders squared, ready to defend his mother against anything, past or present. And me. I stood still. Ears open. Heart ready. Soul bracing for impact. A soft knock, just once, tapped on the door. Not loud. Not angry. Just certain. I walked forward. The air behind me was tight and trembling. Every person in that room watched me like the next few seconds would decide all of our futures. I placed my hand on the doorknob. Mama, Cassius whispered. Please let me open it. I shook my head. This moment is mine. I turned the knob and opened the door. Only a little at first. Then fully. And there she was. Audrey. My sister. She stood on the porch wearing a long gray coat, her hair streaked with silver, her face older but still shaped like the girl I grew up with. Her eyes, sharp, bright, tired, and alive, locked onto mine. Her voice broke as she whispered my name. Laverne. My throat tightened. My knees almost buckled. Audrey. We stared at each other for a heartbeat too heavy to carry. Then she stepped inside. And it felt like the whole house inhaled at once. She moved past me slowly, her eyes scanning the room, studying every face. When her gaze landed on Tillman, her expression froze, pain, rage, and something deeper flickering in her eyes. Harold Tillman, she said softly. I told you 27 years ago that I would come back for what you stole. Tillman stumbled backward. Audrey. I thought you were gone. She tilted her head. Gone where exactly did you think I went? Her voice was calm, but something dark sat beneath it. Tillman whispered. Ansel said. He made sure you left town. A cold smile touched her lips. I left town. But not the world. Dorian stared, confused and frightened. What do you want? Audrey looked at her, then at Saffron, then at my son. Then finally at me. I came for my sister. The room went still. She stepped closer to me. Laverne. They stole everything from us. Our company. Our future. Our peace. And when I tried to protect you, they tried to erase me. Her voice trembled. But I survived. My breath hitched. You survived. All alone. She shook her head gently. Not anymore. Tillman's voice cracked. Audrey. Are you the one sending these messages? Are you the one threatening me? She gave him a long, cold stare. If I wanted to threaten you, Harold, I would walk through your front door in daylight and speak to your face. Just like I'm doing now. Then who sent them? Dorian cried. Audrey looked toward the window. Someone else you wronged. Someone who's tired of waiting. Someone who reached out to me months ago, because they knew the truth would kill him before the law did. Tillman's face lost all its color. Who? Audrey stepped back toward the open doorway. He's on the way. The house froze. Cassius whispered. Who's coming? Audrey turned to me, her voice low but steady. The last person Harold ever expected to see again. Her eyes darkened. Ansel Reed. Tillman dropped into a chair, shaking violently. No. No. Not him. Not now. Audrey nodded once. Oh yes, Harold. Outside. Footsteps approached. Slow. Heavy. Coming straight toward the house. And that was when I realized. This story wasn't about the past catching up. It was about the past kicking the door down. The footsteps outside grew heavier. Each one sounded like a slow drumbeat warning everyone inside that life as they knew it was about to flip upside down. Audrey didn't move. Her coat hung still around her. Her eyes never blinked. And Tillman. He was shaking so hard the chair beneath him creaked. I stepped forward, not because I was unafraid, but because after 27 years of silence, survival had taught me something important. A woman who lived through storms does not run when the wind blows again. Cassius came to my side. Mama, whatever happens next, you're not facing it alone. I squeezed his hand. I know, baby. Then the front door opened. Slowly, quietly, like someone had lifted the weight of a lifetime just to push it inward. A tall man stepped in. Ansel Reed. Older. Thinner. Gray hair brushed back. Still wearing the same cold confidence he had back in those Atlanta offices. But this time, something else lived behind his eyes. Fear. He looked from Audrey to Tillman. To me. And his voice cracked. Laverne. My jaw tightened. I didn't move. Audrey folded her arms. You took long enough. Ansel exhaled sharply. You told me you were calling everyone tonight. I didn't think you meant all at once. Dorian stepped back. What do you all want? Why are you here? Ansel looked at her, then at Saffron, then at Cassius. His expression softened for only a second. Tonight is about truth. Then he faced Tillman. You dragged me into this mess 27 years ago, Harold. You hid behind me. You pushed blame onto me. While you sat in boardrooms taking credit, I dealt with the fallout. Tillman shook his head. No. No. You agreed to everything. You lied just like I did. Ansel's voice rose. Yes, I lied. But you turned it into a life. You made yourself a king off the pain we caused. And now everyone wants answers, including the law. The law. That word settled into the room like a cold shadow. Saffron began crying again. Daddy. Tillman covered his face. Please. Please. I will pay everything. I already agreed. I said I would repay every family. Audrey stepped forward sharply. Money was the first step. Then she pointed at the folder on the table. But healing does not begin with checks. It begins with honesty. I took a breath and stepped into the center of the room. Enough. Everyone looked at me. This ends tonight. Not with anger. Not with running. Not with fear. But with truth. I turned to Tillman. You owe us a confession. Not to save yourself, but to free the people you broke. He looked up at me, tears in his eyes. Laverne. I'm sorry. I shook my head. Say it right. I walked closer until my face was inches from his. My voice softened, not weak, but firm like a mother speaking truth that cannot be denied. Tell us what you did. Tillman's chest rose and fell. His shoulders caved. He looked at Audrey, then at me. Then finally he spoke. I lied. I cheated. I stole. I destroyed families for money. I forged signatures. I manipulated numbers. I took what wasn't mine. And I let Laverne Jasper lose everything while I became rich. The room went silent. Ansel lowered his head. Dorian wiped tears from her cheeks. Saffron collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Cassius's face twisted with anger, and something like respect, for the truth finally spoken. Audria's voice was soft. And the truth you hid about me. Tillman swallowed. I made calls to push you out of town. I tried to silence you. I tried to make you disappear. Audria closed her eyes as tears rolled down her face. But her voice didn't break. I survived. She walked to me and took my hand, squeezing it tight. I looked at Tillman again. Harold, tonight isn't about destroying you. It's about ending what you started. Dorian whispered. So, what happens now? Audria looked at me. I looked at Cassius. And Cassius gave a small nod. I answered. Harold signs full restitution in the morning. Every family repaid. Every wrong accounted for. And after that, he steps down from every position he holds. He disappears from the business world. Forever. Tillman nodded weakly. I will. Everything. I'll do everything you said. Then he whispered. Laverne. Audria. I am truly sorry. For the first time in 27 years. I believed him. Audria squeezed my hand again. We're free, she whispered. We finally are free. Tears filled my eyes, but they were not tears of pain. They were the kind that fall when a wound closes after decades of bleeding. Cassius hugged me, his voice shaking. Mama, you won. You really won. I held him close. No, baby. We didn't win with revenge. We won with truth. The night settled softly around us, as if the house itself exhaled after holding its breath for too long. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt light. I turned to the camera of the story, the imaginary viewers watching this moment, this life, this journey. Thank you for watching this far. If you felt this story in your heart, if you walked through every chapter with me, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss more powerful stories like this. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I want to know who sat with me till the end. Tonight, we closed a chapter 27 years old. And tomorrow, a new one begins.